I'd like to call the Board of Public Works meeting of June 4th to order. First thing on the agenda is to ask if anybody is recording this other than LCAP. Seeing no one. Next on the agenda is to review and approve the minutes of the meeting of May 22nd, 2013.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of the meeting held on May 22nd, 2013.
Second that.
Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Next is, we asked Dave to send us the DPW superintendent / town engineer job description because of his plans to retire early next year. So we thought we'd just take the time to look at it. He sent it to us in advance. And we had a chance to look it over. Hasn't been changed since 2004. I don't know where we want to go with that, if we want to make some changes. The only thing I saw was that is not in here because it's been added since then is the utilities section. Because that has been added to your job description since this was last reviewed, so I don't know if anybody else has anything else?
No, I mean, I read it, I mean, I wasn't aware of that fact, but.
There's no facilities here either, right?
Yeah, there
Yes.
is.
It's
Yes.
facility maintenance right
Yeah.
there. Right in the job
Town
summary.
building's got it.
Yeah,
Third sentence down.
yeah.
So that's when we changed it last?
Yes.
Yep.
Anything with technology or licensing or anything that you think should be incorporated as we look for a candidate to make sure we're covering all bases, or you think between our IT staff and other people in town, they cover those bases?
I think so.
Dave also put in our packet what was the ad the last time we went out for a search for the superintendent when we hired Dave. And he also put a revised one for us to review and just make a few changes as we see fit.
Looks reasonable. Looks reasonable.
Yeah, I mean, we can take time to look at it again a little more carefully. See if there's anything we want to change in there.
Do you feel residency is required? Dave,
Excuse me?
would you feel residency is required? I mean, I know it was on the board when we hired you and we were going back and forth on that back then.
Well,
I'm very glad that you did move to town.
I remember when I was interviewed by Mr. Burak, Mr. Mayberry, and Mr. Perkins at the time. They asked me where I lived, and I said West Springfield. And I believe I was told at that time that, should I remain in West Springfield, that the board felt they didn't have a problem with that because West Springfield was pretty,
It's just over the river.
skim a stone over the river.
Right.
For,
Is that-
for response time and stuff.
What do you guys,
And then I think, if I recall correctly, and I might be wrong, because it was 3 superintendents ago, Dino Swalby, I think, lived over
In
just
Springfield.
over the Springfield line, so, and, it was close to Town Hall. There's probably some of the people that live in East Long Meadow.
exactly, right.
So I think you just have to look at each one. If they apply and they're from Pittsfield,
Well, Pittsfield's not gonna work,
Yeah,
right?
all right.
I think we chose that word local. over East Long Meadow pretty carefully when we discussed it last time too.
Okay.
You know, rather than say East Long Meadow residency, it says local residency.
Right, local area residents.
So that way, if we did find somebody from Brockton or somewhere that were gonna apply, then they knew they only had a year to find a place. And I don't know if we need to tighten it up to actually say Hamden County residency or, but that local worked last time, I think it could work this time.
Okay.
And that was the idea, somebody who can get here in a few minutes.
Right, and the superintendent isn't as crucial as some of our other employees that have to be on call if emergency really occurs with a pump station or, something like that. You really want to, I know we have one that lives, one employee lives in Ware.
That's
correct. So,
That's on the edge of being
it's
too far.
It's a hike.
When are we starting? We starting in October, November?
I don't think so. I think we want to move it up no sooner than that.
No, I mean as far as the hiring date, starting date
Oh.
of,
What do you think?
your effective last date is.
Well, like I say, the issue is that I'm going to start in November 25th. I will be on vacation for the rest of the year. And I will be back for 12 days in January. So unfortunately, that's right in the smack dab of budget season, budget preparation.
Smack dab right in the
Yeah,
middle of it. You
but-
plan that
Well, you're gonna have to do budget before you
I would
leave.
think you would do the budget. I mean, this new person is not gonna have
Right,
any
you're
clue
gonna
of
have
what.
to do the
I mean,
You'll have
budget.
to do it before you leave.
The capital budget won't be a problem, but the operating budget will, because we usually don't even have our marching orders until,
Yeah, we'll have to play the what if and you'll have to give us a few.
you know.
You'll have to give us some pointers, Dave.
But my question is, are we gonna go concurrent? And do we have the funding? Do we need to ask for it at fall meeting or anything? Fall town meeting? Do we
Oh,
have
yeah.
funding to fund it
Bring this guy on a month early or
3
something?
weeks to a month early for some,
Well, you got,
He won't be there. He'll only get-
No, if we hire him in October,
Oh,
and if we have him like the middle of October, and he leaves the middle of November,
or are we gonna just ride it till January? These are the things we just gotta think about, and we won't decide it today, we
Right,
gotta
right.
think about it, and then, or do we just hire in January, and if Dave's, can we get something that says Dave will come back as required as a consultant to,
because the other
Until we make the
problem-
transition.
Well, the problem is, I mean, once you hire somebody, and it becomes public notice, their employer might let them go, which is, they have to give a notice, but,
yeah. Oh, they be on,
uh,
they be on, so we need money for,
well, so, at what point do you announce who it is?
I mean,
Well,
as soon as what he's saying is, as soon as we award the job, wherever that person's working, he's liable to get, see you later. We're gonna,
if he's not top dog, you could say, hey, we don't need you.
Right.
well,
See ya.
it's always,
So,
it's typically the practice if they get booted to grab them right away. We need to be ready to grab
well, I said,
them.
but we don't have the funding for it.
Right.
That's the thing, and that,
Do we have funding?
no, if you did an overlap, there wouldn't be enough funding.
There's no other place to grab that kind of salary, right?
No, you could make the appropriations committee aware of what's going on, and what they would probably tell you would be to, I'm only guessing, but they'd probably tell you to go ahead and do the expenditures now, and then as you get closer to the end of the fiscal year, put in for a reserve transfer at that time. I don't think they'd probably add to the budget so early in the season, only 6 months into the season.
and they wouldn't really want to add it to the budget, because the budget gets carried forward to the next year. They would just want to give us something supplemental.
Well, yeah, have to reserve transfer into fiscal year 2014's.
I mean, because we'll be in the middle of the budget and everything else, I mean, I don't know how you guys feel, but I would be more comfortable hiring this new guy a month early and have him spend some time with Dave.
But it's really 3 months early,
Oh, yeah, that's right.
because we're paying for November, December, and January.
Right. But at least have a month with him to,
I think a month is kind of,
how long does it take you to prepare the budget?
10 minutes.
10 minutes? Then what the hell we been paying you for all this money for
I
all
don't
these
know.
years?
A lot of Saturdays and Sundays, I can tell you.
I know that. I see the emails on Easter morning and at 7 o'clock, and you're very diligent, Dave. You're gonna be a tough guy to replace.
Well,
So maybe it's 2 weeks before he disappears.
Because he's only gonna be back for the last 2 weeks. If he's
Or
back
the
for
question to
14.
ask is, after he retires and somebody comes on, when we can afford it in the budget, can we get 2 weeks or 3 weeks or 3 days a week for 3 weeks
of course.
consulting or something, which might be the better way. The staff should have a fair knowledge of day-to-day things, and then Dave can come in for the high level.
I'll do whatever it takes.
You just want out.
Don't put it that way.
It's kind of blunt, Tom. But true. So, I'm just thinking, we're probably talking about a start date of January something, right? Is that when you're actually,
My retirement date will start January 27th.
So you got 12 days in January?
I do, 12 working days in January.
So maybe we bring this guy on for the 12 days in January that you're together, and then
12
if,
days? Did you say 27?
no, the 27th
You
is
said
the
27th
actual
is-
day, but he's got 12 working days.
Because there's 2 holidays in there and 3 personal days that I have.
Right.
Not that I looked at it, mind you.
So you
Right.
will be working in January.
I will.
12 working days
Oh,
in
alright.
January. So if we start the new guy January 1,
That's probably what we're
he'll
talking
have
about.
12 working days with Dave. And then if we need to bring him in as a consultant till we make that transition smoothly,
Safe to say, the other calculation we could be looking at too, safe to say, unless the guy's over the top qualified, he's coming in at less. Because part of Dave's pay is his knowledge here and years of service, so.
Right.
So there may actually be enough cushion in there for 12 days. Because you got from January to June.
right?
So we'll have to do a little bit of math on that, just to see what that looks like, so we can fill in the blanks on the salary range. We'll have to talk about salary range a little bit more.
Yeah.
We won't do that today, right? Yeah,
No, we'll have to
yeah.
go in this executive session. but-
So-
So the starting date is penciled in at January 1?
Yeah. January 1. Would you be comfortable with that if you were sitting over on this side of the bench, Dave?
Yeah.
You're not sliding us under the bus, are you, Dave?
Never, Tom. You're too big.
So now realistically, when do we want to start posting? This is June. We're gonna need a
The candidate would have to
few
probably
months.
give at least 2 weeks.
What's your experience with contracts and things, Dave? All over the lot? But month's notice, 3 months' notice? For other people coming here if we find a municipal position?
2 weeks notice, usually the,
Pretty typical?
It's pretty
Yeah.
standard.
yeah.
What's your contract say?
90 days.
So we're looking for another guy like you with 7 years' experience, 2 years being,
We probably need a month's notice to be,
Yeah.
in our mind, we probably need to be thinking about a month.
a month at least, right?
So a month means December. Offers in October. Interviews in
Well, you got
September,
you got your
September,
preliminary, you have to have them in by, all resumes left in by a certain date, and then we'll review them, and then we'll narrow it down to the top.
It's sooner than you think,
6 candidates or
Tim.
so, to roughly, that we have actual interviews, and then we have to follow up.
August 15th. Have them in by preliminaries. You get 70 applicants.
Oh, you're gonna have all of that.
You gotta spend some time weeding through to get it down to something to interview. You
Yeah,
gotta-
I'd say that
You got a
again.
first
Have
round,
all of
you got a
that.
first round
You got,
interview.
what, 100 for the last one?
106.
106.
106 for a secretary position. I remember when we ran your job the last time, David, I think it was 100 people.
Was it?
Yeah.
I mean, if you wanna be
But you
awarding.
finished first, Dave.
It's the only thing I ever won.
If you wanna be awarding in November so they can give a notice.
What it is, I figure we'll take.
And if some of these guys
2
have a
weeks.
contract like his, they
It'll
gotta
take
give
2
3.
weeks to review them, and then make a decision of who we
6 or 8
And then you're gonna have to set up interviews for the next.
Follow 'em?
month.
I'm
Well,
waiting
that-
for a
that
date
process
for
is
the
probably-
to put it in the paper.
It's like a month by the time they dial in who can be here when.
Right.
Right.
That's a month.
So that's
Yeah.
September. Then you got second interviews in October,
That's narrowed down to just a.
reference checks.
Yeah.
It goes fast, the time flies.
That's what I'm saying, I think
I'm
maybe
thinking August 15th.
you
this-
wanna
this
push it
thing
up to
to
August
have-
1st.
August 1st or August 15th. to
I
have
would say August 1st.
Resumes in by.
I would say August 1st, only because if something gets dragged out, 2 weeks isn't, goes by like that, no?
Are you talking about posting in the paper with resumes?
Have resumes submitted by August
I'm
1st.
saying
And how long, how many,
September.
how long are you gonna put it in the
Only got
paper?
enough time.
all the month of September to review them. I mean, if they're in by the first, a month to, 2 weeks to go through them and then to come up with a final list. Review them and make a decision. I think it's a 2-month process.
Got no wiggle room.
You got no wiggle room, what if you're looking at?
What's the harm in going sooner? What is the harm?
I think if you make a decision that the candidate's a lame duck or he has a problem, because everybody's gonna know who it is, and if you make the decision.
Well, there's nothing to
in
say, we have to
October-
make the decision.
We don't have to make we don't have to pull the trigger until November 15th.
Exactly. But at least you have that window to work it.
We don't have to pull the trigger.
We may have to post, we get 4 applicants, we may have to post twice. I mean, there's 2 sides to this formula.
Yeah, I don't think that's gonna.
I don't think it's gonna
I don't
happen
think
either,
that's
but if
gonna
it
happen.
does,
I wouldn't think that.
I don't think that happens, so what happens if,
November, you're talking 4 months.
no, we're not.
so,
September, you're saying, I mean, August,
Post in August, have them in by August.
September.
Set up interviews in
October,
September.
November, just 5 months.
Set up
So
interviews
what
in
if the guy we
September.
hire has the same clause in his contract that says he gotta give 90-day notice? Because we're looking for a guy like him, who's gonna come from either that position or just under his position, is probably gonna have the same contract or very similar contract, where he's gonna have to give more than a month's notice. I could be wrong, I mean, what do you think of?
More is better in my experience, I mean.
We don't have to pull the trigger that fast if we're looking at these things and it's not an issue.
How long does it take for you, post to hire? I mean, it's a little different position, but, I mean, you posted in how long to hire?
It took me 4 weeks to hire.
4 weeks?
But I had 106 resumes to go through. In prior times, when I had 5, it was easier. But it took me between, and I did
You
two,
had 2
and
interviews?
I did 2 interviews. So it was a 4-week
So
process.
it took you a month.
Took me a month.
Month, and then just a month of.
And you're gonna
month-
do at least 2 interviews, right?
Well, do you remember how long it took for you? It took a while, I thought.
Actually, I applied for the job in March, and I was not actually hired until May 27th.
March to May, well, that's 2 months. How about you, Dave? I thought we had a bunch of meetings at a round table over here
Oh,
for
yeah,
quite a while.
we had a bunch of them. I'm telling you, I think it took over 2 months to hire him.
From the time we got the
Well,
applicants.
Silvio left in late October.
I agree.
And Dave,
But
I'm
I'm
sorry,
saying 3
in
months.
July, and
Yeah.
you were hired in October?
September 1, you want to
All
do
of
September?
October, all of November, all of December. Yeah, 3 months.
Just tell me when to put
So
it.
you don't have all of December.
If I know it's gonna be
You
this
gotta hire like the
complicated.
1st of December.
Right.
So you don't have all of December.
Hey, you got Thanksgiving, Christmas, all that other bullshit in here. I mean, it's gonna be hard to get people to come in here.
I just think August is way too early. September.
Well, the first thing you have to do is put it in you're gonna put it in the paper.
And what's
Yeah, but we
the-
need the
what's
date to reply by, that's what we're
What's
working
that
on.
Yeah.
register, isn't there a central register or something, or
No.
what's
No,
that?
just a.
Or what's, no,
local
that's for local.
publication. Well, local publication.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Quick paper.
And you can have it appear more than once, you can have it appear, it, obviously, every time you have it appear, it costs more. And they could, I think they might even put it up, I don't know if you're gonna want it up on the internet. I had it on the net and that, I had everybody, there were many people who applied for this.
I think the internet is gonna move it out farther than
You
where
want-
the applicant should be.
Yeah, I agree.
Because we
I
want a
agree.
local app.
No, I'm suggesting you not do that. That you
Right,
do
right.
just
I
post
agree
it in
with
the
you.
paper.
August 16th, how's that? It's a Friday.
So what is August 16th?
A Friday.
I know, but what, is that what
It's the day after the 15th.
15th.
I know, but is that the day we put it in the paper?
That's the day where it says 3 references should be received no later than August 15th, 2013.
So it's gotta go in a few days before that, that's all I want to specify.
What do you think of that,
Thank
Dan?
you.
Halfway in between August 1st and
I'll step
September.
aside, you guys can arm wrestle for it.
Then it's August 1st.
Hey,
I'm not confident.
I'm sure.
16th, that Friday?
Yeah, I think September 1 is,
Should you
I
say
already
no
wrote
later
August
than-
15th,
All right,
so it's 2 to 1.
August 15th. 16th, what did I say?
16th.
16th.
is the Friday.
8, 16, 13.
Nice.
So that's the receipt of the application.
So then you gotta post it, whatever the law says there, or whatever EOE posted. What do you want, a date in there? How much ahead of time? August 1st?
Run it for 2 weeks?
Couple weeks?
I think so. I don't think we need to
Yeah.
run it more than 2 weeks.
And you're gonna put it maybe in Sunday paper, that's probably better than
Right?
So you could do the 3rd and the 10th?
2 Sundays?
August 3rd, August 10th?
Is there a municipal publication or something?
Like Mass Highway Association?
Yes, Mass Municipal Association, it's a
Yeah.
website where we
Right.
It's a
post
website.
jobs on there, yes, oh
Right.
yeah, oh yeah. That's
We
very
could
easy
post
to,
that
that's
the
very
third,
easy to
too.
post it on there. And with the towns and
Round
members,
about
it
August
doesn't
1st, you
cost
start
anything.
posting.
Right.
I would put it on that also.
All right, so we wanna put it on the 3rd and the 10th, or you want it in the Republican?
I thought it was a Mass Municipal.
And
Yeah.
the Mass, MMA, Mass Municipal Association, I think that's what it's called.
And then
I've never
I
done it.
posted things on there
the
before.
Republican, and
So
then
you
I
can
think
show me
that picks up Mass Live too.
It's gotta be, you gotta make sure it's on Mass Live.
I think when you put it in the paper,
Yeah.
they
Right, you just
automatically
gotta make
put it
sure,
on
yeah.
Mass Live.
Okay. We're gonna add utilities to this.
Yeah. Did you get a posting date?
Well, I thought John said we would post it on a Sunday, which, on the paper, which would be the 3rd, and the following Sunday, which would
Okay.
be the 10th.
Yep. And you can Mass Live it, and then you can put it on that municipal thing whenever, they must have a
Whenever.
filing date of some sort.
Yeah.
Probably just a website that
Right.
it goes up on. And
So enough time to make
It's
sure
not a
it
publication, I don't think.
gets in before. Gotta give somebody a week to get their paperwork together, right?
All right, and the paperwork would be in on August 16, that's what you're saying. So that would
Yep.
give them 6 days after the last years.
Last time we did like a little committee, we thinking of that, or just do it here and see how we do, or? Because Tom Wilson got onto it last time by
Right,
doing
right.
that.
You had to narrow it down to the top, I think, 6 finalists, and then you made a recommendation from that list.
Right, we narrowed it down to 2.
So do we wanna do that?
I think we, I don't know. I don't think so. I don't think we did, do we? I mean, I think we just pull up the top 5.
We can make that decision once we see,
Yeah.
do we get 5 applicants or 105 applicants, and do we feel there's value?
Because, I mean, I want to say it was close to 100 people. And you could easily throw the first 80 away just by,
Yeah, they are
just reading it.
qualified.
They weren't qualified.
And one of the big factors too was having you on the committee helped us to understand if somebody was throwing us just some lines we didn't understand.
Yeah.
Ductile or lines or drain
Right.
layers or permits or.
I think we're gonna find a guy that's already in a local community,
All right.
that's a number 2 or number 3 guy that wants to move, is what my gut feeling is.
All right.
Okay, so, the only thing we'll have to do is, like, go into executive session our next meeting, go into executive session, and we can firm up the, pay scale,
Right.
what we're looking for,
All right. Works for me.
so, alright. Alright. Bill, do you wanna see us for anything, is that why you're here? Alright, can we, leave
That's
the
fine.
agenda for a minute? Go ahead, Bill.
Thanks. I just want to bring up the subject of water at the dog park. Right now, we're filling a couple of 5-gallon jugs a couple of times a day to keep the water containers filled for the dogs. And the ladies can't handle that. That's pretty heavy, actually, it's better than running that. And so sometimes we end up with no water at all for the dogs, and they really kind of need some air out for all summer, actually. So I just wondered if there's any update on the water supply to the park that we might be getting, sometime this season if possible.
Well,
Throw that to Dennis.
yes, please. There is, the only water supply on that side of the park is fenced in for the dog area. What we talked about was in addition to that, because it was fenced off, that water supply was for that side of the park. When they put the dog park in and fenced that off and closed that, we no longer had water supply for the pavilion and for other areas of the park. So we were gonna put a pit in, and we have the pit, and we're close to ready, but we have been straight out busy. So the additional water line wasn't for the dog park. The additional water line was for the pavilion and other residents and patrons of Heritage Park. That one supply line that is there, I was never under the impression that we were gonna add an additional line for the dog park.
I was under the same impression.
Is it not in your fenced area?
It is, and that's the area that was approved by the planning board when we initially set it out, and the board came out and surveyed the property, and they knew the lines, we had all marked off, and that was obviously there at that time, and that's what they approved, and then they said you can't move that boundary from what we're approving here, and I said, fine. So, I mean, I just went with what was approved. Because they defined it to us by having it 10 feet off of that access road.
Right.
As defining that particular side. So that's where we measured off, and that's where we drew the line. So I didn't have any idea.
Yeah, but what are we missing? Isn't the water line inside the fenced
Yeah,
area?
the faucet is inside it's at the far end of the small dog area of the park, basically. So that's where we are filling up the 5-gallon jugs. And then, we have to, bring it, I think it's about 200 feet to the large dog side and about 150 feet to the access for the small dogs. And then, as I said, it runs out pretty quick. And we had faucets, underground lines for the faucets put in last year when we built the park, and we know that whole story, that didn't work out at that time. That's why I was hoping that something may be in the works that eventually we could reconnect that and have the faucets right at the site. I don't know if that's anything possible or not.
If I could, the only problem we had with that setup was that you had removed the backflow device from the faucet that it was attached to. And that made it a problem, that made it a possible cross connection, and it was a health hazard, and we're very rigid when it comes to drinking water in East Long Meadow. So we put a hose bib vacuum breaker back on. Now, when you do that and you run those lines off of that, it reduces the water pressure and the volume. Probably, I would think that might have been the issue on what you're getting out on a couple of separate lines from an outside faucet and that distance.
I think what I'm hearing is it's not reconnected.
It's not, right.
So
But
am I
the-
hearing, can they reconnect it?
Certainly. as long as that hose, the vacuum breaker's on there. The last one we put on, we put a lockdown on it, snapped the nut off, and I'm not certain that it wasn't reconnected. That can reduce the water that's coming out of those lines, or if it even reaches some areas.
Well, I thought we couldn't connect the hose from that faucet to our existing.
Well,
I thought-
you couldn't without the hose. Do you remember you took that device
Yes.
off? I had a little bit of a problem with that. We went out and put another one back on. That was the key for that.
Right,
But as far as construction and the additional water line, once that was fenced off, the board had agreed that was good and right and okay, things had been approved. So the additional water service was to be on the outside of the fence for additional water supply for the rest of Heritage Park, or for that side of Heritage Park. So you
So-
could certainly reconnect to that faucet as long as that device is in place.
I guess that, all right, well, okay, I guess the, and you can correct me on this if I'm wrong on it, but, so if we connected that, I think the problem that we had, you know, physically with that device was that we turned that faucet on, and we used the on-off faucet over by the two large and small dog areas, and by leaving that one on, that's what causes the backflow to come out. Is that, you understand what I'm
I
saying?
do understand exactly what you're
And
saying.
that's what happens, right?
We would want that faucet off when it's
Okay.
not in use.
Okay, so that's what would have to happen, right? Okay.
If I'm
So-
listening to it right, you need to turn the faucet on, fill up your water, go back, shut the main
Basi- I-
faucet off, don't leave it running.
Exactly, I guess that's,
Just-
if you're saying we could do, is that what you're saying?
Yeah,
Yeah.
we wouldn't necessarily want you to leave it under pressure, continuous pressure, no. The device is set to stand up to continuous pressure, but those are plastic lines, you're not there all the time.
Right,
That's not something we would want as a rule to have that faucet on.
okay,
It doesn't necessarily affect that backflow device.
okay, okay. All right, so then, that would, at least that would eliminate the carrying of the heavy jugs from that faucet to the different areas. If I did that, if I just turned it on,
John,
went down and filled
is
it.
it possible for you to meet him and show him how you want him to operate this system?
Certainly.
I think well, we can.
No,
but
no,
I think
I-
we can do that.
Yeah,
You meet with him,
Certainly.
You show-
Roy or somebody,
somebody,
hook up, make sure it's all set.
that's the
And the
way it's gonna
backflow
be.
would spew out if those other faucets are on, is that the idea?
That's correct.
Yeah.
Yes, it breaks the vacuum and it dribbles and stops the water from backflowing into the.
Right, because the ends of your hoses are in the water balls, if I'm correct.
No, there's separate faucets that come out of the ground, there's separate faucets that come out of the ground. And if, you know, if that's the scenario that, you know, as long as we know that,
You and Roy meet
Yeah,
with,
okay.
it's drawn up right, it's the right device in the right situation.
right,
More than anything, we would.
but I think he
yes.
next to understand it needs to
Yeah,
be shut
we'll-
off.
We'll get it straightened out.
Yeah,
Okay,
okay. All right, thank you.
okay.
Okay,
Next on the agenda is the solar energy power purchase. Mr. Kelly.
Yes. As I mentioned at two board meetings ago, we currently have two offers regarding a power purchase agreement, which I explained was utilizing the solar credits generated from projects off-site. We have a local company, Secure Energy Solutions, who is acting as broker for Solaire Company, and Synergy Land currently has a project underway in Gardner, Mass. And then also there is St. Joseph's Abbey in Spencer, Mass, which they've created SJA Solar, which we refer to as Solterra LLC. The main difference, the St. Joseph's Abbey one or the Solterra, they've upped fairly recently their credit to 30%, and the Solaire company is at 20%. Solaire did counteroffer with a 25-year proposal, which would have brought it closer to that 30%, but my understanding is that it's limited to a 20-year contract. You can do renewal provisions after that, but it's a 20-year contract. The estimated savings based on last year's electricity use. If we went with Solterra, it would be roughly 190,000. And if we go with the Solaire, it's more like 128,000. Again, those are estimated numbers. They do decrease over the years, but based on an estimate of the energy market changing and whatnot, the Solterra proposal could save us over 20 years about $2.8 million. And the Solaire company, a little over $1.5 million. Again, that's based on not just the credit, but the actual price of electricity. It does not get affected by the delivery price. You pay whatever the delivery price is, because that's another third party. That said, the benefit to Solaire at this point is that one of the solar fields in Gardner is currently online, and that would be a good portion of the credit that would affect fiscal year 14 or 15, next year, 15.
15.
And the St. Joseph's Abbey one, the Solterra one, probably wouldn't come online until next spring at this point. So we wouldn't realize any savings until it came online naturally. What I'm looking for here is just advice on the board on which one to move forward with. We did have a notice to sign contract from Solaire, and we did have a draft contract that we had previously worked on from Solterra. So if the board is willing to make a decision, we can move forward on that and try to start saving some money.
These are 20-year contracts?
Didn't you have some assistance from the collaborative? Or
Yes.
Do they have a recommendation?
They won't make an outright recommendation, but they said the higher percentage one naturally, because it is a higher percentage.
So
Right.
that would be the Solterra?
And that's the one that's about a year away from coming online?
Yes. Yes, on that one, they have the majority of their permits as of last week. The only thing that's holding it up right now is running a line to a high tension line. They have to carry back the high tension lines to the point.
But the structure's in, they just need to connect it to the
No,
high tension?
the structures don't take that long to put in,
Oh,
so
oh.
they're not even starting that yet. They're,
Okay, that's the simplest part of the,
in my experience, yes.
so coming off
It's
the
getting
high,
all the permit work,
right,
the permits with the Secretary of State and Energy Office, but probably more so tapping into the live power line.
Hmm.
Both of those, Gardner and Spencer, are both located within our grid, so we can
Right.
do that.
Which one's Gardner, which one's in Spencer?
The Spencer one is Solterra, and the Gardner one is Solaire. Another advantage to
Say
the
one more time. Gardner, which one is Solterra? It's Gardner?
Solaire,
Solera.
which is through
Yeah.
Secure Energy
Yeah.
Solutions down the street, is Gardner.
Gardner.
and they're the ones that are ready now?
For a portion of our,
That one field.
I think like 60% of our energy needs right now.
So we get like 80 grand out of them now
Right.
versus waiting and getting 190 in 16, 15.
Right.
What'd you say, 15?
So the other one would be coming out to 15.
But the difference of
In 20 years.
62,000 per year blows the future value of that money away, especially at the cost of money right now. So I mean, the 190, the 30% on paper, blows away to 128. with-
Right.
With the 6 month to a year advantage. I mean, it
Over the course of 20
Oh, it
years,
kills kills it.
it's over $1 million, 1.3.
The only downside to that one, it is not a local company. Solterra is based out of Chicago. Solterra is based out of Chicago. They are a national corporation. But with Secure Energy Solutions, if there was a problem on billing, they're easy to access. being across the street. So.
But the other one's a national company, so they've ironed out more bugs, or they've been around longer, or better
They're
track
a
record, or-
real estate conglomerate, and this is one of their branches. They own shopping centers and malls and things like that. And then probably 5 years ago, they branched into solar.
So they've only been in it about 5 years? How long has the other company been in it?
Solaire, I'm not sure. That is the company through Secure Energy Solutions.
Yeah,
You know, Secure Energy has probably been around, I'm gonna say close to 10 years.
yeah,
Just recently into the building down here.
Right,
A couple of years ago.
right. I don't know. Do you make it
If it was within a couple thousand or 5 or 10%, it would make sense. This is a huge
This
amount
is-
of
this is a
money
big
difference.
difference. I mean, in
I'm
20
all
years,
about local, but
that's 1.3 million bucks.
$7,000 a year,
it's a lot of money.
Yeah,
difference.
yeah, big difference.
So are you looking for a motion?
From a procurement law standpoint, you're all set. You just want us to say, go.
Motion?
David had a comment?
Well, what we're looking for is actually the board's approval to move forward to the next step, and that would be in securing a mutually agreeable contract between the town and this company.
That's what I was wondering.
Should that not be able to happen, we'll come back to the board and say, all bets are off, we
All
just
right,
can't.
so I'll make a motion to move forward to try and come up with an agreement between Solterra at the roughly 30% off, 190,000 per year, 20-year agreement between East Long Meadow and Solterra.
Second the motion.
Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Good work, nice.
Any other business?
I don't really have any.
T-Meister, anything?
I was speaking to John about, this week about, you wanted to get a program from the IT to be able to track truck maintenance.
Well, Mr.
And you-
Gromowski and I had spoke with IT maybe a year ago, maybe a
Right.
little longer, and we picked out a couple of software programs to track parts, costs, labor, and all that, and it died out at one point. I know David had reminded them, and I had reminded them through work order systems and phone calls, and it was, and although sometimes things take a good amount of time, we were in a bind, I was in a bind this last year when, we do track the parts that we buy, the money that's spent. It's certainly more difficult to add hours and labor costs and those types of things without the software set up for you. We do track those things on a simple program on the computer, but the information that I needed to provide to the board and appropriations was not very detailed, or certainly not as detailed as we would like to have been, to show the costs that we're spending on vehicles that were older. So Tom had brought that up, and I said, well, we did spend some time at one point trying to narrow this down, and it fizzed out.
So you picked out a
We
program
did,
or
I met
software.
with Craig a few times,
Right,
and we looked at some things together, and there was one picked out, I thought, and then they got very busy, but it just,
A
it
year and a half-
fizzled out.
a year and a half busy,
It's
John?
been- It's been a while.
John, Dave, you got any comment?
Well, other than that.
Why we ain't got
Other
it?
than what you already know, that we haven't seemed to have much
So what
movement.
does Bruce have?
I have impulse system.
Specific to buildings as
No, it's
opposed to
specific
vehicles, or?
Everything, it has buildings, vehicle maintenance, metering for utilities, building assets, equipment assets, everything on it.
So is it a separate module, or is it all one?
It's all one.
Is that not the
Obviously, I
program you
just
wanted to run?
Utilize the
That's not the
building
program you
portion.
wanted to run, or?
Well, it may fit very, very nicely. It isn't something that's been accessible, or certainly not to me, or to
Because-
this part of the
Because
department.
I thought we could have been much more prepared when we went to those meetings to show the fact that we're spending way too much money to keep a bunch of older vehicles running.
Tom, and I know that the software, the work order system Bruce has is good and fits his work. Our work order system is not bad. And we were just looking for a software program specifically designed for the mechanical end of this.
Equipment maintenance.
Because, you know, the one we're using for the, and Bruce's is all tied together. His work order system, his vehicle, whatever, I mean, it's all one piece. And at that time, rather than reinvent the wheel, we were just looking for a software program. If indeed they wanted to do something like that, we would be up to anything.
What's the program?
Is your work order system different than Bruce's?
It is, yes, sir.
Can yours be modified to do the?
No, my work order system is a little more homegrown. It was made up with IT in its own program.
It wasn't even made up by IT. We had that made up by a small outside vendor. Actually, it was the Applied Geographics did it. It was kind of a
Okay.
Frankenstein program.
Yeah.
We told them what we wanted and they built it.
Okay,
And it works well,
Yes.
given for what it does.
yeah.
But it's not gonna, it doesn't do anything.
But there's software
With the
programs that
vehicles.
just track vehicle maintenance.
And Bruce's might, if we spent some time on it? or-
Bruce's yours can, but how user-friendly is that?
It's very, well, it's been a couple years just populating just the information that is put into that
I mean, we don't need a
system.
PhD to,
It's pretty complicated.
You know what I mean?
So,
Several people will be operating it, the mechanics.
and I don't know, basically, if I can give, you can have IT give certain permissions for certain aspects of the program. I haven't vetted those options, if that can even be done.
So maybe we need a little,
well, let's further look at this.
yeah,
Right.
Let's,
couple working sessions and see what we could do,
Let's-
because only my experience with software, which is quite a fair amount between what we keep track of, you know, at Mayberry and for our customers, is getting the information in is the hard part. Giving access to just kind of put in a few things like hours and parts and things against items by serial number that are already there typically is user-friendly. But getting it set up, but that's even true, even if you're buying off-the-shelf software, you still gotta spend the time to get all the VIN numbers of all the trucks, all the mileage, all the types of transmissions, all the types of motors that they have, the rear ends, the size of the tires. I mean, if you really wanna have the data, it's getting it set up that just takes time. But once it's set up,
Then you're just plugging in
then
one,
you just,
taking
I
one out.
did 4
plugging one in.
hours, he did 3 hours, I put in this part, he put in that part. And
Yeah.
you set up a PM schedule, you set up your routine maintenance, and so we're doing that on the AC units, right, the rooftops?
Yep,
yeah.
we're actually in the process right now.
Maybe
We'll
over
go
the
back.
next couple of months, we just have a couple work sessions where explore what Bruce's has and what configurations could be changed with Craig. And then if that doesn't go, then definitely let's put a press on getting something that will get it done. Because I agree, I mean,
Right.
having PM schedules and routine maintenance in there and knowing what you put in and, hey, we spent $53,000 on that truck in the last 3 years or something is valuable information.
Because, you know, I think we're spending too much money on a lot of those things and we should be getting rid of them a little bit sooner. And I think that would bring our operating budget down.
All right.
we'll revisit it and see what we can do with that.
Sounds good. I'm all set.
Anything,
We finished up the Pine Hole Pool preparations for this pool season. About 3 weeks worth of patching and repairs and painting. So we're all ready for filling up the pool probably at the end of next week. Other than that, LCAT is 100% complete. We finished that on Friday with all the cabinets and counters and everything else.
You want to tell them about the request we had to do a office swap?
Oh, yes, we also, me and Mr. Kamaski met with Mr. Grove yesterday, the town administrator. We had a request to move the building inspector out of his office and move the benefits manager from the clerk's office to the building inspector's office. Got to take down some walls, do some minor renovations, drywall, set up some doorways,
where
painting.
you gonna put the new?
It's actually gonna go in where the benefits manager is, next to the clerk's office. She's actually accesses her office through the clerk's office, and then there's her office, and then in front is a copier room. They're gonna utilize both spaces. The copier area now would be the new secretary for the building inspector and the electrical inspector, which would be Maureen Tyberski, I believe. She would move into that office, and Dan Hellier, the building inspector, and the electrical inspector would share an office in the back portion. So we're planned on doing that in September, just because of the workload we have coming up, starting July 1st for the school system. We have quite a few projects we have to complete for them, and it's obviously our busy season. We have 8 weeks to complete all that work for the school department, so.
Bruce, where is Corrine going?
Corrine will be moving into the old building inspector's office, his existing office.
How are we with the roof for Birchland?
Roof for Birchland Park, the bid opening, I believe, is June 13th at 10 a.m. at the DPW office. So we, I think we have 10 to 15 bid packages that have been picked up already. So hopefully we get a good response and get that taken care of, obviously, as soon as the bids are received.
The windows are done in Birchland?
Windows are complete, yep, so we're in pretty good shape.
Good. Good. Anything else?
Sounds good.
Plan the next meeting?
Wednesday, June 19th, 5 o'clock. It's just a proposed.
I got a new phone last night, I don't know if I can work it.
It's not a Tuesday, so it's good, right?
It works for me.
Wednesday, June 19th at 5 o'clock?
Yep. Service building. Motion to adjourn?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
that authority, and you have more chance, I think you have more of a representative, where if you have 100, like I think they had in West Springfield, where the elected officials perhaps can convince a smaller group to vote a certain way, as opposed to having the overall town have that opportunity.
Okay. Any other questions for Attorney Levine?
I have a question. Did your board or commission ever think of going outside what pre-exists in the general laws and perhaps going and proposing something on the order of an entire new chapter of general laws just to fit our own needs?
I don't think that ever came up. And I'm sure this group is the same way. I will say the Charter Commission I served on, which we must have met well over a year, these were people who put in hundreds of hours. I mean, so
That's
that's
encouraging.
indicative of people who, what's that?
I said that's encouraging.
I mean, and they didn't get any thank yous, really. People don't know how much they actually put in, and they had the concerns, they did a fine job. But there was civility. It was, whether we disagreed, I enjoyed the experience with them.
One other thing, Mr. Chairman, if I could. When we talked to a couple members of your past committee, they indicated that if they had more time to sell the package and did not put a short timeline, that maybe they would have been more successful. Do you adhere to that as far as moving fast is probably not the best?
You're within a time frame by state law on the Charter Commission. From the initiation of the commission when the final vote has to be taken. I'm guessing, I think it was 18 months total time. And rushing, I don't recall the time, it may have been a couple of months shorter than the maximum, but I don't know that there was, it may have seemed rushed at the end when you have to get things done in a timely manner, like a publication, etc.
I think they were trying to meet the deadline of that following general election,
Yeah.
rather than carry it over to the
Exactly,
following year.
exactly. I mean, when something, I think, I always second guess, could I have done better? Absolutely. Could I have pursued something else? I guess so. But I don't know. I know at the end, things get